Hey all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be telling an RPG horror story. I'm going to make up a whole playlist of RPG horror stories for you to enjoy, or for me to alienate everyone that I know in the local scene. But if I'm telling horror stories about you, maybe it doesn't matter that we don't get along. In this case, it's going to be a horror story about a Forgotten Realms game that Mike Chartrand ran for us. Mike Chartrand, the human rat, the rat man himself. Mike he's banned from my games, by the way, so don't worry about me alienating him. He's already gone, long gone, and good riddance. But Mike is one of those guys who came in and, he says, "Oh yeah, no problem. I got this. I got 30 years of RPG experience." And for me, I'm like, boom, red flag. Because every guy I've ever met who came in is bragging about having 20 years or 30 years of RPG experience have universally been terrible, awful, the worst of the worst, that stank-ass, crusty shit on the bottom of the barrel. That's these guys. You've been playing games for 30 years. Never once did you do it right. Never once did you stay in character. Never once did you put your form over function. Did you make a character from your mind instead of a mechanical power gaming construct? It's just ludicrous. I don't understand how this could happen. I don't know if it's just that era, like this original RPG era, was terrible, or if it's some weird connection between people who are terrible and their need to tell you that they've got this pedigree, as if that excuses their horrors for some reason. But I have no loyalty to a nostalgia factor. I have loyalty to excellence. If you're very good, I'm loyal to you. If you're very bad, you're out the door in my game. So Mike Chartrand comes in. He's running a Forgotten Realms game for us. So, I don't know if I should count off the red flags as I go or not, because I'll lose count. That'll be too many. But right off the bat, I'm like, okay, well, what kind of characters should we make? And he's like, level 15. And I'm like, boom, red flag! Because we're using Pathfinder, and I'm like, level 15 is extremely powerful. It's ridiculously powerful. And I'm like, and then he's like, okay, so, and this is just the first red flag in his sentence. He's like, okay, well, first of all, it's level 15, and you just guys make whatever you want. So I'm like, red flag, make whatever you want. I'm like, what if we all make things that are completely incompatible with each other, is what I'm thinking. I'm not going to argue with the guy, because we don't get along. I don't like him. He doesn't like me. That's a known fact. So even at this point, when we were in the same game, like I knew that we weren't getting along, but I thought we could at least game together. Because I'll game with somebody who I don't like, as long as they're a good player. That's fine. But unfortunately, Mike's not even a good player, so, banhammer, boom! Right on top of him. So, I'm thinking, what if we all make completely incompatible things here? Like, did he not think this through? But, and that's exactly what happened, of course. So let's go through this monster of a party. We have level 15 characters with no reason to get together. And you better believe, you just wait for this, we're going to meet in a tavern, and it's going to be the worst stank-ass tavern you ever heard of. But let's go through the party first. So for myself, I am playing a sprite sorcerer of elemental cold, a member of the Unseelie Court. Kind of a dwarven barbarian in the body of a sprite, the ultimate Napoleon complex. Which is a somewhat comedic character, because I'm not taking his game seriously. But it does have some end game on him. he does have some legs to get some role play out of this character. And you'll believe I'm the only one who was role playing in this game. You better believe that. So that was me. Josh Pullman, the MVP of Kitchener RPGs, is playing a Crow folk Shaolin monk. So we got this barbarian Celtic woad-covered fairy and a Shaolin anthropomorphic crow kung fu fighter. So right off the bat, we're having problems. Aaron comes in, and somehow he has created a Warhammer 40k Space Marine using the Pathfinder rules. And he's wearing power armor, and he's got a las gun. He's got plasma grenades strapped across his chest and a chain sword, and he is a Warhammer 40k Space Marine standing next to our Shaolin crow and a little fairy floating around their heads. And then Rick comes in with a dwarf, and Rick is going about a secret style character creation. Like he's really pushing the mystery hard. So we just see a dwarf, and he's kind of just wearing a tunic and some boots. He just looks like a dwarf commoner. As far as we know, he's a dwarf commoner. So we got a dwarf commoner, Space Marine, Shaolin Crow, a fairy, and then we've got Will, who's coming in with a. He actually went through from the actual Forgotten Realms setting. He's like he's the one who actually cares about the local setting, and he pulls out a Flaming Fist mercenary. Which are kind of like U.S. Marshals of the Sword Coast. But Will has done such a poor job of describing his character that he's just like a suit of armor, and he never takes his helmet off. It's just a suit of full plate, probably with a large shield and a long sword. The most generic, just fighter that you can imagine. Just a suit of armor with weapons, and his helmet is closed at all times. No face, no voice, just a suit of armor that walks around and chops things up. And then, Tyson was there too, and he came in with, we all have somewhat wonky concepts, some wonkier than others. Of course, Will and Rick have like the minimized concept. Oh, I'm a generic fighter. I'm a generic dwarf. Although I'm sure Rick had some backstory that he was going to slowly reveal. I'm pretty sure Will didn't, and he was just generic. And then I'm at a high level of wonkiness with the woad covered fairy. And then above me is Josh with the Shaolin Crow, and above that, of course, the Space Marine. So Tyson comes in, and instead of going on the creativity wonkiness scale, he goes on the power gaming wonkiness scale, and he pulls out what I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or at least let me know if I'm right, but he pulled out the only class that Pathfinder has banned from Pathfinder Society. Pulled up the most broken class, the most broken build for that class, the one thing where Pathfinder was like, oh, that's actually even too powerful for us. We're going to ban that from our Pathfinder Society game. So Tyson comes in with this, and it's a summoner with an eidolon. So it's basically a wizard, and he's a gnome, I believe. So he's a gnome wizard in a suit of magical, it's like a magical force field Gundam. It's a magical construct made out of just straight force magic energy. But it's this enormous, powerful Gundam thing with like a giant Naginata and metallic wings on its back. So we've got the magical Golem Knight. We've got the Warhammer Power Armor Space Marine. the Shaolin Crow, the woad cover fairy, a dwarf commoner, and a suit of armor walking around. So, you know, this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't have a unified theme. Is everybody's wonky, and they don't fit into each other, let alone your setting. And when you run at level 15, everyone's going to be cranking up their wonkiness to an obscene degree. You know, just trying to think like, oh man, how can I take a normal character and turn the volume all the way up to 11 and make him so loud and so powerful? Because level 15 is ridiculously powerful. How can I drive him up to that power level? You're pretty much always going to end up with some kind of wonkiness. So this is the group that we've assembled here. The you know, the Gundam Mage, the Golem Knight character of Tyson's, the Space Marine, the Shaolin Crow, woad covered fairy, and a dwarf commoner and a suit of armor. So now this is a bad joke, isn't it, guys? So a Space Marine, a Golem Knight, a Shaolin Crow, a woad covered fairy, a dwarf commoner, and a suit of armor all meet in a tavern. Oh boy, isn't this a great start for an adventure? Isn't this going to be a wonderful story that you're going to retell over and over? Well, I'm going to retell it. I'm not going to tell it because it's trash, because it's the worst of the worst. I'm not going to be retelling this with fond affection. I'm going to be retelling this like just remembering how upset I was, how bored I was, how silly it was. So we come in, we meet at a tavern, and, you know, he doesn't even start us together. He's like, okay, the tavern is called the Bloody Carrot, because he randomly rolled the tavern name right in front of us. You want to talk about world cohesion. You want to talk about, you know, having anything prepped and prepared and ready for us. You want to talk about breaking my immersion by rolling the name of the tavern up right in front of me, and having the name of the tavern be so wonky and ridiculous that no one would ever possibly believe it. So right there, another one. And if you guys at home want to come up with some kind of drinking game, you know, every time he does something wonky and ridiculous, you take a shot and you'll be wasted. You'll already be wasted after just hearing about our characters. I guarantee it. So we meet at the Bloody Carrot. We don't know each other, and we start to introduce ourselves to each other. You know, I'm hitting it up with the role playing. I start talking to Josh's character because I know Josh is a really good role player, and you know I don't really know anybody else there. This is like the first time I'm Poor Rick. This is the first time I met Rick. First time I met Will. Tyson was fairly new as well. And I'm not going to talk to Aaron. Just I'm going to try to bring it together. I can't be talking to Aaron. Because Aaron's the best guy to explode a party in the most entertaining way possible. And actually, you know, managing to do it in character. But nonetheless, Josh is the man to pull it together. Aaron's the guy to blow it up. When they're both in the same group, you have this great dramatic flux. But first, you got to establish the group. So, you know, I'm trying to talk to Josh. Josh has clearly not thought ahead about how to roleplay with his character. So I'm talking to Josh. I'm not talking to a Shaolin Crow and the personality that a Shaolin monk should have, or that a human anthropomorphic crow should have. I'm just talking to Josh, and I'm in character as my ridiculous, unseelie court, you know, barbarian fairy of elemental cold. So I'm talking to Josh, and like as we're going along and talking, someone tries to kidnap me. All of a sudden, I'm caught in a prismatic sphere or some inescapable Odaluk's resonant sphere. And Thrycreen is snatching me and running out the window and up the wall onto the roof of the tavern with me, onto the roof of the Bloody Carrot. So the rest of the party, take this as their cue to attack this Thri-kreen, this completely wonky psionic mantis man, which is what a Thri-kreen is. So they're fighting with him. I'm in this sphere the whole time. Mike catches me in the sphere, like no save, and he drags me up. Everybody fights to rescue me. I'm just waiting there for the whole combat. And they're level 15. Each one of their turns takes 5 minutes because they got so many powers and abilities and wonkiness. So the combat for me was just really, really boring. I'm just sitting there. I'm a sphere. I try to blast out with cold. I can't, and that's all I can do. Because I'm not going to learn more than one spell. Because at level 15, I have so many spells. I'm only going to learn one per level that I can actually remember. Because then I get flavor out of my character. He's unique and different, and he's not just this, I'm generic and versatile. No, I want to be really unique, really, intentionally pigeonholed, so that I can get the flavor out of that delicious pigeon, the squab. So the combat was really boring, and right when I get snatched too, I'll come back to this. Right when I get snatched and the Mantis Man starts running, Aaron's like, "I fire on him as he runs with my las gun," and Mike's like, "Oh no, surprise round." And Aaron's like, "Yeah, but I'm a diviner by build, so I can act in any surprise round." So I fire on him with my gun, and Mike's just like, "No." And Aaron's like, "What do you mean? It's one of the special abilities of my whole character. It's like the linchpin of my character. Everything depends upon this. It's like, why would you pick a diviner? Because of this ability." And Mike's like, no, it's... He runs through the room and escapes out the window, and you hear him climbing up the wall. And Aaron's just like, "Oh." So Mike, he jacked me out of the combat, no save. And then he jacked Aaron on his special ability as well. Like, right away. Jacked him, too. Sorry, Aaron, you built your character to do this, but this is banned from my game. I'm going to ignore that. You have to do that, which you're not built to do so well. Do that instead of this, because you want to do this. So you get that. So, another red flag. Take a shot. Clang! There you go, buddy. So, the battle on the roof, ridiculous. The ceiling explodes. The second floor catches fire. The building collapses. They kill the Thri-kreen. There's some ridiculous clue on the Thri-kreen's body leading to a mysterious obelisk rising from the forest. Basically, we got this thing, and it's like a piece of stone or a holy symbol. Let's say it's a holy symbol. And we get this, and we're like, it's a holy symbol. And Tyson's like, "Well, my build is so broken, I have every knowledge skill." And he just rolls the dice, and he's like, "I rolled a 2. After mods, that's a 52. And I'm not trying to jack you, Tyson. It's not your fault. This is Mike's fault. So Tyson, he rolls so well because his character's so broken. He rolls so well that Mike is like, yes, this is a holy symbol of the worshippers of this obelisk in the middle of the forest. You should all go investigate this obelisk. And then he starts narrating right away. He's like, you head through the town and out into the forest without us actually saying we're going there. So he's now moved us from... I tried to roleplay. He cut off the roleplay with combat. And as soon as the combat's out, straps us on a railroad and starts running us through the adventure. So I don't know if you'll consider that a red flag or not. Because sometimes railroads can be good and sometimes they can be bad. But for those of you who hate railroads, I thought I'd mention that. This is a railroad that we are strapped to. A level 15 railroad with a Space Marine, a Shaolin Crow, Gundam, magical Gundam, a Fairy of Elemental Cold, and a dwarf commoner, and a suit of armor. And one of these ridiculous wonky parties that develop when you don't tell anyone what anyone else is doing and you don't help them stay cohesive. So we go through the forest, and we're walking through the forest. I'm trying to roleplay with Josh again. We actually did have an interesting philosophical conversation, somewhat in character from Josh. He's starting to get his feel for his character. But I expounded upon the religious pursuits of the sprites, and also upon our war against the pixies. You know, it was comedic, but it had the potential that I could switch my character into a serious role. But I knew that wasn't going to happen because, you know, Mike is running the game, the human rat. But just in case, I left myself an out to have some seriousness. So we're walking through the forest, and once again we get ambushed. And you know what happens on the first round of an ambush? I get captured because I'm tiny size. I'm 6 inches tall, so it's really easy for anything to grapple me. So we get attacked, ambushed. I'm immediately grappled. Bam! And of course, Aaron is once again denied the ability to act in the surprise round, despite that being the keystone ability of his class. So I'm captured once again. Aaron can't act. They start fighting with this monster, and I can't do anything because I'm captured again. And but I start asking Mike. I'm like, can you describe the scene for me better? And he's like, oh, you're in a forest. There's a monster. It's captured you. And I'm like, okay, what does the monster look like? And he's like, it's big and dangerous looking. And I'm just like, big and dangerous looking? That could be anything. Is it humanoid? Is it like some kind of dire bear? Is it, another thri-kreen? Like, what is it? He's like, it's a monster. And it's totally, shit cans me and ignores my question to the best of his ability. He comes through to Josh, and he's like, oh, the monster hits you for 10 points of damage. And Josh is like, okay, what kind of damage? And Tyson's like, oh, just generic damage. And Josh is like, what? Okay, but like how? Like, describe how it hit me. Like, did it slash me with claws? Did it bite me with fangs? Did it club me with an ankylosaurus tail? Does it have a bony projection on its tail? Does it have a tail? Did it buffet me with its wings? Like, how did it damage me? Is this acid breath? And Mike is like, and on to Aaron, and he just ignores Josh and his request for description. He moves back to Aaron. So you can only engage with this monster via combat, and it is actually just a stat block. This the monster type stat block. So to this day I have no idea what it was supposed to look like. I don't think I didn't ask. I don't think Josh didn't ask, and everyone else knew not to ask after watching how Mike handled the first 2 questions. So we defeat the dreaded stat block. Dreaded stat block. It was laid down into its grave. I don't know if it made a thud or not when it hit the ground. I guess it just poof disappeared when it died. Maybe it was invisible the whole time. That's what I pictured in my mind, fighting an invisible monster. So we defeat this monster of some kind of genericness, and we head through to, we find this obelisk, and we're exploring the obelisk, and, Tyson's like, oh, you have all knowledge skills. And he rolls, again, he rolls like perception to examine the obelisk, and then he rolls decipher script to read the script. And it's like this ancient script that the worshippers of the obelisk have been trying to decipher for 1,000 years, and they've only half translated some of it. and Tyson rolls, and he's like, I roll a natural 20, plus I have a plus 50 modifier. So, Mike is just like, oh, you managed to decipher the ancient obelisk script that they've been failing to decipher for 1,000 years. And you find that the obelisk is actually the center of a ley line ring that runs around this mountain. And clearly the spell woven through the ley line is to keep power flowing into this mountain. And then you all head to the mountain, and he just starts narrating how we travel to the mountain. We don't decide to travel to the mountain, but he just narrates us. We head through. Aaron activates his jetpack. Boom! Jetpacks away. Tyson's Gundam Golem spreads its wings, and they start flapping like an ornithopter. It flies off. Josh, the anthropomorphic crow with the Shaolin monk robes on, polymorphs into an enormous crow, and he's a were-crow, and he starts flying away, and I'm a sprite, but I can't fly that fast, so I'm like hanging on to Josh's feathers on his back, riding him. Somehow Will and Rick got there as well. Here's the thing, we're all of us that can fly and get there, narrate our cool flying ridiculousness, and me, because I'm right in there, so I am on Josh's back. But Rick and Will, who are new to the group and somewhat weaker as role players, and they've been completely overlooked by Mike. Mike's throwing everything onto, Aaron and Josh and Tyson, and he's completely overlooking Will and Rick. He's letting them be forgotten. He's not shining the spotlight on them, and he's actively moving the spotlight onto people who can probably just get the spotlight for themselves. So again, bad GMing there, letting these guys just kind of get crushed under the weight of everyone else. And so I don't know how they got to the mountain, but I'm sure Mike didn't care either. He probably didn't care that they were there or not. Anyway, we all get to the mountain, and we're exploring the mountain. And, Tyson, once again, he's like, I roll a perception check, and he rolls his dice, and he's like, I rolled a 15 after mod's 65. So what do I see? And Mike's like, oh, you discover the secret entrance to a temple built into the mountain that no one's discovered in 1,000 years until you came and rolled a 65 perception. So, in theory, other people could have abilities that would let them decipher script and that would let them discover this. Like if we had a dedicated wizard, they could have deciphered the script. If we had a dedicated thief, they could have got this temple and discovered it. But Tyson is snatching everything. He's like, oh, you've built your character to do this? Well, I can also do that, and better than you, because I built the most broken character in the game. Oh, you are the thief. You're really good at finding stuff? Too bad, because I'm better than you at that. I'm better than both of you at your specific jobs, because I power gamed. I'm going to steal all your spotlight. And, usually you can role-play yourself back into the spotlight. But, again, there's no role-playing going on. I'm trying to get some role-playing. Now I'll try to engage Aaron in role-playing, because I'm already kind of tight with Josh in character now. So I start talking to Aaron, and he starts telling me about the Space Marine Corps and how orcs are actually a sapient fungus, and all of this stuff. And my character thinks he's insane. He thinks that he's gone mad. So we had a little tiny bit of role-playing there. Because, as we know, my character is apparently destined to get snatched in battle, so I can't contribute statistically at all. But I can keep up with role-playing. Despite Tyson being there and being better than everyone, I'm cool. Like, I can roleplay. Everyone will still remember. Everyone probably still remembers that character today. If I ask them, you know, what did I play in Ratface's game, in the Human Rats game of Forgotten Realms, they'll remember my character. They might not even remember their own character. I know for a fact that Tyson doesn't remember what he played because I've told him this story again, and he didn't remember being there. He probably, I don't know if he zoned out through the whole thing or if he's blocked the memory because it's so horrific to him. But anyway, we get to this temple, and we start moving in through the temple, and we're subjected now to the wonkiest of the Forgotten Realms traps, of the, you know, the old school RPG traps that don't make any sense at all. At first was like a room of elemental cold, and of course my character is a sorcerer of elemental cold, 15th level. But it can only be defeated with elemental heat, and I can't control the ice in there. And I don't give a shit. So I'm still role-playing. I'm trying to role-play with Will at this point. Yeah. Might as well role-play with myself. But, you know, so he can, you know, he's this unscrupulous suit of armor walking around with us. And, you know, I'm trying to talk to him, and he just like shakes his armored head yes, or shakes his armored head no, without speaking. I got very little role playing out of him. But Tyson defeated the trap. I think Josh tried to, and he got frozen. He almost died, and then Tyson just walked in and just defeated the trap with his power game magic bullshit. And we moved through to the next room. The next room had another wonky trap. This one was like some kind of what do they call it? Anti-magic field, a field where magic cannot exist. So, you know, as a sprite, I almost died. Like, the light inside of me went out. I fell to the ground. My fairy dust stopped twinkling. You know, I was role-playing this. I mean, mechanically, it doesn't do anything to me. But I role-played through this thing about how I'm a being that's, you know, I'm half magic. Half man, half amazing. Or half magic. And it almost killed me. So we've got to navigate the traps without using magic. And, you know, so Tyson, you know, this is like, I was thinking, oh, like this is the place where Tyson can't get it because his character's magical. So Josh once again tries to move through first. Josh is almost killed again by a trap. He's a monk with like improved evasion, and you know he's built to be super agile, but it doesn't matter. He gets smashed with this power game trap, and almost killed. And then Tyson starts moving through. And Mike starts to describe like how his golem armor, his Gundam of force field magic starts to disappear. And Tyson's like, oh no, I'm actually immune to anti-magic. My powers aren't magical actually. They're spell-like abilities according to this obscure indeterminate rule in the summoner class. And what, you know, so Tyson, you know, the one area where it's a chance for him to show his weakness and to show his kryptonite factor, he's like, no, I'm Superman, but I'm immune to kryptonite! So he comes through and he power games through this trap as well. And we got through this shitty room. You know, and I was trying to talk to Rick at this point. Rick speaks only in riddles and mystery, even in real life. That's not even his character. Rick just speaks in riddles, so you know I was having some trouble understanding him. I thought it was in character at this point. I'm like, wow, it's a great character, so unreadable. But that's actually just Rick in real life. It's just like the first time I met him. So we got through the anti-magic zone trap, and then we move into. It's a long corridor, and everyone gets immediately suspicious that it's riddled with traps, because the previous two rooms had traps, and none of the corridors between them were described. So now that Mike's actually describing a corridor, We know there's something about this corridor, because Mike doesn't describe things unless it can kill you. And as we know from the Invisible Monster, sometimes he doesn't even describe things that can kill you. So he's the king of non-description. And railroading. It's not like an empty sandbox. It's like an empty railroad. Yeah, have fun with that. Traps and stat blocks and railroads. Oh my. But we get to this long corridor, and we all describe, like, I wait outside the corridor. And Josh, once again, tries to move into the corridor and try to disable whatever nefarious trap is going to be there. So we're moving through. Sorry, the mailman just distracted me. So we're moving through. We're in the room. He's moving through. We've all specifically stated we're staying outside this hallway. Josh moves through with his monk, level 15 monk, agility, stealth, being very careful, and making perception checks. And he sets off a trap because this whole place is designed for someone just slightly below Tyson's level of power. So trap goes off, and Mike describes how the doors on either end of the corridor drop down, trapping us all in the corridor. And we're like, oh no, we specifically said we're waiting outside the corridor. Only Josh went in. And Mike, it's the best line of the whole adventure. Mike's like, that's only what you meant to do. What you actually did was you walked into the corridor behind him, and when he set the trap off, you were locked into the corridor. And we're all standing there like, I looked around, like, I'm like, what? And I look around, and Josh is like, ooh. And Aaron's like, oh. Aaron's a very melancholy individual. It's very easy to depress the poor big guy. And, it's like incredulity and sadness and anger. And so we're trapped in this corridor. The walls start closing in, and the walls drop down on either end of the corridor, and then gelatinous cubes drop down in front of the walls, and the cubes start closing in. The cubes fill the entire corridor, and they're moving in towards each other. So we start hacking away at these cubes. For the first time, I got to cast a useful spell, and I blast it with like a polar ray or something. And I mean, at 15th level, I'm like, I can cast Wish 3 times every day. So I'm so wonky and ridiculously powerful. I nerf myself down to a polar ray. But we're blasting these cubes that are going to crush us, and everyone is getting the combat on, and we kill the cubes. The cubes melt away. There are big stone treasure chests inside the cubes, and everybody's like, oh, how convenient, treasure. And this is actually somewhat, his traps are somewhat interesting. They're just a little wonky. So, I'm thinking like, oh, he's giving us treasure. Like, he's a shitty enough GM to just throw treasure at us. Whereas usually I might be more suspicious. But because his standards are so low, my standards for Mike are so low, I just assume he's going for the treasure dump. So somebody goes to open one of the treasure chests. And, of course, that reveals that the treasure chests are actually mimics. They're actually golem-like monsters that just look like treasure chests to attack you. They're living traps. So, the one attacks us. And, I'm in, like, full smart aleck mode at this point. I've given up on this adventure. The role-playing that I got was poor from the other guys. And, the actual adventure's terrible. So I'm in full smart mode, and I'm coming through. I'm like, Mike, aren't mimics actually intelligent? I'm pretty sure, according to the monster manual, the bestiary. Mimics actually have an intelligence score slightly higher than my character. My character is actually a moron. I got like an intelligence of like 6. I'm a barbarian. I just happen to be a sprite who has magic in his blood, but I'm actually very stupid. So I'm like, the mimic's actually smarter than me, I believe, Mike. And Mike's like, oh no, they attack you anyway, though. They're just attacking. And you know, I'm like, oh, I see what happened. We can't actually hear or speak the language of the mimics. So when the cubes disappeared, the mimics start saying, oh, thank you for rescuing us. You've rescued me and my wife. We were trapped in these separate cubes for 1,000 years. And then when Aaron's approaching the mimic to open it, and the other mimic's like, wait, what are you doing with my wife? No, please. And Aaron's like, hey, I'm gonna open you up and get what's good inside of you. And he opens up the mimic, and he starts, in the eyes of the male mimic, he's now raping the female mimic. That's why they attacked us. That's the scenario I've invented. It's actually, to me, more coherent than what Mike invented. So I'm rambling on about this. Because I've abandoned all hope at this point. Abandon all hope, ye who enter the forgotten realms. And we fight the mimics. We kill the mimics. And we move through, we end the corridor. And now comes the treasure dump. We find this ridiculous wizard lab with a sky ship. And Mike starts reaming off pages of magic items that we find in this fucking wizard lab. He takes a half hour to describe all of the magic that we find. He describes each item in detail, mechanical detail. I don't know what it looks like, but I know exactly what the mechanics are. So he took another half hour. I'm like completely zoned out at this point. Given up on role playing. I have no interest in mechanics. Everyone else, Josh is writing down everything that he's got from this fucking wizard's lab, and then Mike's like, oh, run out of time. We'll pick up again next week, right? And I'm like, not with me, you won't. I quit. Like right there, I'm like, I'm done. If I have to sit through this again, I'll kill you. I'll roll initiative for real if I have to sit through another session like this. So that is my RPG horror story of Mike, the human rat, the one time he ran for us. And to anyone who asks me what my problem is with old school gaming, old school RPGs, why I don't like it old school, the way they used to do it, this is why. This is my old school RPG experience. Railroad, no role-playing, no description, nonsensical traps, treasure dump that takes up a half hour when you could easily do it over email and not waste group time doing it. Just so much. Just GM fiat, ignoring Aaron's abilities, and power gaming, with Tyson being twice as powerful as everyone else. And all meeting in a tavern that you just named right in front of us. And no unified themes. There's no reason for us to travel together. Just thing after thing after thing after thing. And I'm like, to me, this is what old school gaming is. This is what they used to do back in the 70s. And that's why old school gaming to me is trash. And this is all why Mike Chartrand to me is trash as far as a player goes. As far as a human being, I don't like him either. But at least, as a human being, he has benefits. As a role player, I don't think there's any point to him being in a game. So this is my RPG horror story. I gotta make up my own playlist now because I've already recorded a couple of these. So I hope it was somewhat entertaining, not too vitriolic. For those of you playing the drinking game version, salut, and I'd love to hear your horror stories as well. If you want to defend old school gaming to me, please go ahead and give it your best shot. Or if you've run into some of these same tropes before, describe that. Have you found a wonkier party than this? That's the main question I want answered. But I'm going to be signing off now. So I hope everybody has a good day out there. Cheers.